In this video, I really want to talk about pre-spawn bass fishing. And really there are a few things, there's three in particular that are things that I always think about when it comes to the pre-spawn. Now we are here at the end of February. You know, for me, really pre-spawn doesn't kick off until kind of the end of March. But depending on where you live in the country, if you live in Florida or Texas or down south, you may be experiencing some pre-spawn fishing right now. So we're gonna go ahead and talk about some pre-spawn bass fishing today. Now, before we get into it, this video is brought to you by my apparel company, Fin Fishing. At Fin Fishing, I have one of the only, if not the only, USA made sun shirt out there on the market. I have solid colored sun shirts. I have pattern colored sun shirts. I have a lot of different colors at this point. And anyways, it's something that I'm really proud of, and it's something that I've worked on for a long time. So if you would like to help support this channel, I'm gonna leave some links down below for Fin Fishing. I not only have sun shirts, but I have some other products as well that you may be interested in. All right, let's talk a little bit about the pre-spawn. Now to me, the pre-spawn is one of the best times of the year to go out there and go fishing. I think you can find some of the biggest schools of bass. I also think that you can catch some of the biggest bass during the pre-spawn, and mostly because pre-spawn bass typically weigh the most. I mean, a 6 pound, if you catch a 6 pounder in the summer, that fish might weigh 8 pounds during the pre-spawn, because a lot of these fish are just full of eggs and they are feeding up, kind of getting ready for the spawn. So to me, I absolutely love the pre-spawn. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about is a little bit, it's going to be a little bit different depending on where you live in the country, but there are some signs that the pre-spawn is happening in actually some of the trees that we have. And what I mean by that is that I actually used to do tree work for a long time. Like I did tree work for like 10 years of my life, literally cutting down trees, dragging trees, putting trees in chippers, all that fun stuff. But I have paid attention to trees probably a little bit more than most throughout the years, just because I kind of came from that particular industry. Now there's a tree around me where I live in Ohio that is called a Bradford pear tree. And this is a tree that it's actually like engineered. It's not a natural tree, but this tree turns a really pretty white color, although it smells awful in the springtime, and then it will kind of fade into like a green tree throughout the year. Now, what I have noticed is that when those trees start to be white, when they start to sprout and you start to see them white all over the place, that is typically correlates with some of the better pre-spawn bass fishing that you will have. For me, I've seen that when those trees are white, a lot of these fish around me start to move up into the shallow waters, or at least get on some of their pre-spawn areas. If there's areas on the lake where you've caught them in that pre-spawn before, these are the first areas that I'm gonna check. And it almost happens year after year after year. And so, like I said, this doesn't necessarily mean that a Bradford pear is gonna happen or is gonna sprout where you are, but it's just something that I've noticed. So really pay attention to kind of those things in nature that may give you kind of clues as to when the fish are starting to move up. It's just something that I've noticed. Besides that, I've actually noticed also that during the kind of like June, when the cottonwoods start to bloom or whatever they do, they release those little balls of cotton everywhere. It's almost always a good topwater bite. Like almost 9 times out of 10, if that's happening with the cottonwood trees, you can go out there, throw topwater no matter what lake, and you're gonna catch them. So anyways, just look around at your surroundings, because there might be certain things that happen in nature that can really help you to realize, hey, it's time to go fishing. So that's a big thing that I want to talk about. Another big thing that I wanted to talk about is the time of day. I have found is a little bit more important than always how warm your water temperatures are. Once you start to get into the spring and into the pre-spawn, sometimes we'll have these really cold nights that just kind of loom around for a long time. And what I've noticed over the years is that if I look at like photos of when I've caught bigger pre-spawn bass, they're almost always within like the same like week or two time frame, no matter what the water temperature is. And so what I found is that there is just a certain time throughout the year where the light really shines throughout the day, like for longer, and it just seems like the bass start to get more active, even if that water temperature is still cold. I remember just a couple of years ago, we had a really cold spring, and I remember going into this area, it was shallow, and the water was 46 degrees and muddy. And usually if you have water that's 46 degrees and muddy, it is not good. But I remember looking at Instagram, as a matter of fact, and realizing I had been on a good spinnerbait bite like 2 years prior to that during that exact same week. And so sure enough, I just went ahead and went into those areas, and guess what? I ended up catching some fish, and some good ones at that. And I was blown away because the water temp was like so cold. It was probably 8 to 10 degrees difference in the year where I caught them really good on the spinnerbait, but yet those fish were still moving up. So time of day, having longer days, that's a really important thing that you want to pay attention to. Now, the next thing that is very, very important, something that I do a lot in the spring, is simply throw a lot of red lures. And we've talked about this a little bit on the channel, but red is one of your best colors when it comes to pre-spawn. You guys know that I'm not big on the color game. I like the black and blues, the green pumpkins, the whites, but red is definitely something that I incorporate in every single bait during the pre-spawn. I might throw a fully red crankbait or a fully red chatterbait, but sometimes I'll just make sure that I throw a spinnerbait that has one of those red kicker blades, or I might flip and pitch a bait that has a little bit of red on the tips. Whatever it may be, I like to have a little bit of red in my baits, and it's not always necessarily red. Like I kind of feel like the bass probably see red, orange, and pink all very similar. So that kind of hue of colors is what I like to incorporate on a lot of my baits in the pre-spawn. I do think that it can be the difference sometimes in catching a few fish and catching a lot of really big fish. And there's a couple of big reasons for this, that red works so good. One is the crawfish, and I've talked about the crawfish in the past here, and if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I will leave a video linked for that at the very end. The other thing is that in the pre-spawn, you have a lot of fish that are moving shallow, and red is one of the best colors that a bass can see. So I think that these fish are not only able to see red the best, but also you have a ton of fish that are shallow and a ton of fish that haven't been pressured for the last like 4 months, 5 months of the year because it's been so cold. And so therefore they are a lot more willing to bite those red baits. Now, if you don't know what I mean about the crawfish, I'm gonna leave a link for a video that I did right here over on Bass Fishing HQ that will explain it fully. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check out those fin fishing sun shirts and other gear, and I will see you in the next one.